1984 is one of the worst books I have ever read in just about every aspect. The only thing Orwell can do is write coherently. When it comes to crafting a world, creating an interesting story, or writing compelling and sympathetic characters, he fails utterly. At least this book inspired some better stories. But it is still a crime against humanity and the arts. And to anyone who enjoys this book, I weep for you. Here is why 1984 sucks. The story is shit. It is plotting and dull. Over half of the book, it feels like, is spent on this pointless romance between our two main characters, which goes abso-fucking-lutely nowhere. It has an unsatisfying conclusion that just doesn't work. It's a bad ending, which you can pull off sometimes, but when the majority of the book is horrible and depressing, and then the ending is shit on top of that, and it's a bad ending when nobody wins, you're just numb to it by that point, and it loses all impact. And it's low stakes from the beginning, because none of these characters, you can't care about them at all. They're just so pathetic and so terrible. I didn't give a fuck about any of them. Our main character is a man by the name of Winston, and he is a boring, spineless, pathetic little excuse of a man. He's a horrible attempt at your average Joe, your everyday man. Because of this, there's just no reason to care about him or anything that happens to him, because he does nothing to garner our sympathy or our care. He's just a fake rebel, this slimy little cuck who stands for nothing, really. The seemingly only desire he truly wants is to get his dick wet, and even then, he doesn't care too much about that. He just doesn't care about anything, and I don't care about him. Then we have Julia, who comes in about a quarter of the way through the story, and she's Winston's love interest. But really, she's just a fake whore and another wannabe rebel. Again, she stands for nothing and rebels only through fucking. That's all she cares about. That's all she really does. That's all her character really is. I can't remember anything about this boring, worthless little bitch outside of the fact that she rejoices in fucking other men, no matter their position or their marital status. And she did a great job, you know. I'm sure she really showed Big Brother. And then we have Big Brother himself, or the party, or Ingsoc, the faceless conglomeration that has a face, except it's only a phantom face of a man who doesn't really exist. This villain doesn't really work. A beloved dictator that's never actually seen in the flesh? It just wouldn't exist. It's fucking retarded. Trumples would tear shit down just to get a view of Trump if he didn't appear for years on end. But to discuss what's really wrong with the party or Ingsoc or Big Brother or whatever you want to fucking call them, I'll talk about the next character, O'Brien. O'Brien is a really stupid fucking character. I'm sure you're noticing a pattern here. He's not an intimidating villain, and it even takes him so long to push the plot along. He has this fake betrayal only to drag the plot out longer and give us more boring shit in between. The same thing can be said for another character, a Mr. Charrington, this antique stealer. Both of them are really inner party members who pose as rebels. I don't know why. They have really shit motivations. Some bullshit about, oh, as long as the party lives, I don't give a fuck what happens to me. It's just, no one would act like this. No one would fucking think like this. And I'll tell you why no one would act like this and why Big Brother doesn't make sense. People are too greedy. They're too power hungry to settle for a false leader. The inner party members would cannibalize themselves trying to become the next Big Brother. Especially when you consider the upper members, if O'Brien's life is anything to go by, don't even live that much better to their fellow comrades. So what's the point of being an upper party member if the benefits aren't even that good? Conveniently, Orwell leaves out how the party really formed and how they took over the world, because, this starts an undisclosed amount of time in the future after they've already taken over. I guess he couldn't come up with any good excuses of how the people would allow them to take away so many of their freedoms so willingly. This dumbass Orwell just can't find any way that could reasonably happen. This problem isn't just with Ingsoc, because it's so retarded that somehow the entire world agreed to the fake war that propagates these mega powers and keeps them in charge. By far, the fake war that the entire world has agreed to is just the most retarded part of the book. Another strong contender for that title is the fact that the party goes through such lengths to brainwash their citizens through propaganda and constant surveillance and control when they literally have a device that shocks your brain into mush and then fully allows them to reform your mind however they see fit to turn you into the perfect little puppet that would do anything for the party. But not only that, they don't use that device on anyone, only on the criminals, only on the ones who were going to turn traitor. Fair enough. I can see why you wouldn't have to go to that length to the people who are fine conforming just with a slap on the wrist. But then you just kill those people anyway? You've brainwashed them completely, and you kill them. It just doesn't make sense. Nothing they do makes any sense. The party are the type of villains that would end up on a series dedicated to villains or civilizations who are too stupid to win or exist. Shout out Media Zealot. And again, I do have to bring up the very shit and terrible romance in this book. The romance between Julia and Winston is so fake and bullshit. And to try to make a big deal out of them betraying each other after the party tortures them for days on end is fucking laughable. Neither of them ever cared about one another. It was only about the sex, only about rebelling through this promiscuous activity. There was no love. There was only a dick to ride and a hole to fuck. And that's it. That's really all there is to this book. Most of it is spent on the awful romance, and the other parts of the book are spent following Winston's boring life, which loses its dystopian luster after about the first 50 pages. And then there's the occasional talk of rebellion and the thoughts of rebellion, but there's never any actual rebellion or any action whatsoever. Well, outside of the fucking. I mean, really, this book is just a dystopian erotica, but it's not even good at that. There are some other particularly egregiously bad things that I thought I should mention as we wrap things up. There's this one retard, Sime, I don't know how the fuck you say his stupid dystopian name, but this guy, he loves language. He loves it so much, in fact, that he wants to cut it all away and reduce it to nothing. That's his motivation. Great. He's a wonderful character. I'm so glad he was there for 10 pages and then never seen again because the party killed him, even though he was the perfect little puppet. You also get an Orwell classic of just throwing in some anti-communist propaganda because the party hates on the poor little capitalists and their super rich billionaires. Overall, this book is fucking trash. It's not a warning about anything. Even if you do want to make an actual warning about some dystopian future ruled by this authoritative government that totally controls every single aspect of our lives, maybe you should write an actual powerful message and don't bury it inside of a horrible narrative. No one will give a fuck about your message if it is buried in a heap of dog shit. That's what 1984 is. Remove the powerful messaging from this book, and it's nothing. It's a husk. It doesn't even deserve to be called a story. It's just a worthless piece of shit whose only use is kindling or toilet paper.